All right. Bitcoin and beyond 2018 into 19. It's our first 2019 episode, not
Yeah.
interviewing someone.
Yeah. Welcome to 2019, Corey.
Yeah. Big things. Big things.
Right.
Did you catch Shatters? Steve Shatters
Yes. Yes.
talk
Yes.
with
Yes. Yes. That
Bitstocks?
was wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. I liked how at the end he kind of plugged he's excited for 2019. Um and he kind of mentioned in the interview it's been pretty quiet ish. Well, a lot of their team has been kind of taking a break. It's well deserved. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's been kind of quiet, just bear market, you know. But a lot of things have been kind of secretly popping up though, like Genesis.
Yeah. There's first of all, Unwriter has been doing a lot of cool stuff. Um,
Yeah,
big. I don't think I think people are underestimating uh, how important he'll be to the future of the ecosystem because the stuff he's building is very useful for application developers, right? So
hmm
Unwriter, big shout out to Unwriter. Probably doesn't listen to this because he's probably too busy working because he's always releasing stuff and but he's making some good stuff. And if you're any application developer that wants to use a global blockchain as the storage layer for your application, my apologies, I don't understand. Maybe. Then definitely check out what Unwriter is building. But Shatters, his podcast with Bitstocks. They have some cool podcasts these days, so definitely check out Bitstocks on YouTube. They're doing good stuff. And Gravity, which is what Bitstocks is I don't know. Gravity was what Bitstocks announced at CoinGeek Week, which was kind of their banking ecosystem.
yeah.
Huge deal. Yeah.
Hopefully it stays on track for. I think they were talking about Q1 2019 release.
Can we use that here in the US? Or is it like a EU?
I don't know. We'll see.
Mm,
I have my doubts,
yeah.
but
Same.
I think, and this is just my interpretation of it, but I think it's going to be huge for maybe countries that are looking for a banking platform on their
Yeah.
mobile devices. I think that's probably where it'll take off first. If we can use it in the U.S., hell, I'll use it. Um, but I'm sure there's a lot of
Regulation.
rules and regulations that have to be met
Yeah.
for that to be accessible in the United States. Um,
Maybe good segue into last week we interviewed Roger Veer. Everyone probably knows who he is. Um, it was a good, I thought it was a good conversation, hour long. We thought we were going to have less time with him, so that was welcome to kind of extend that out.
mhm.
We were let's see, like Guillermo, he actually watches a lot of our stuff, so he's probably listening to this, so thank you. I think he gave some valuable feedback, right? He said maybe it was because you were trying to be friendly, but I find the interview very weak, being the person in front of you the one with all the hash power pointing to ABC during the fork and accomplice of the deals in the backstage with exchanges. Not only that, but the exchange where he is a shareholder opened BCH as ABC super early on. I was expecting more direct questions to reveal cold, hard truth. One thing I want to point out is Roger says he didn't want to split, but days prior to the fork, he was already posting on Reddit, naming ABC as BCH and referring to the SV implementation to BSV directly. I think it's fair. I think it's fair comment, right? I think the only thing I will say, I do actually wish that we had talked a little bit more about that. His last sentence there, talking about there was a social campaign on that Roger participated in prior to the fork that was trying to play sides. The people involved in his subreddit, again, we're assuming Reddit matters, but the people involved in his subreddit weren't listing anything SV related. It was kind of ridiculous, right? It was clearly a bias type thing. I do wish we had asked him questions, though. I think those were good questions to ask him. I think as far as the interview, I thought we did pretty pretty fair. You're not gonna. I don't want to. We're trying to have a discussion here. We're not trying to attack people. And look at the discussion that spawned on our YouTube channel. Actually, there's a lot of comments kind of discussing a lot of the checksum stuff. So I think that's not really our place, right? Our place is maybe to open the dialogue and get this stuff out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then people can then have their own conclusions, debates, all that kind of stuff at the end. But yeah, Roger, the one thing we can just talk about real quick. The thing that actually threw me off from the very beginning of talking to him, I thanked him for all he's done for Bitcoin, and he was very quick to say no. Well, I would just like to correct you and say I've been doing everything to bring economic freedom to the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't say that. If this fork doesn't happen, BCH BSC fork doesn't happen. He doesn't say that, right? He just says he does not correct me on that. The reason why he corrected me on that was because he doesn't want to get into this game of I care about Bitcoin, because then you kind of have this actual argument of like which one is more Bitcoin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it calls into question the changes they made, whether that made it less Bitcoin than the changes that SV made, which SV made, very minimal changes to actually Bitcoin, because they didn't make any. They just brought back old stuff from Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
So from the get-go, it kind of seemed like he wanted to distance himself from that like distinction, I guess, or that characterization that he, that he was a Bitcoin maximalist, maybe, right?
Yeah.
That was a topic we brought up, was maximalism, and I guess that's kind of what we're talking about today, right? Bitcoin maximalism.
Yeah. And he
Really,
kind of he redefined maximalism as like optimistic. Most like Bitcoin, like you can be optimistic about one, but like still support others, which I kind of like. I kind of disagree with him on that regard, because I think this is all everything that's happening in this whole system outside of cryptocurrencies too. Everything's competition, and that's what we're talking about. Free market competition, and when you're in a business setting, you're not going to support your. Now you can cooperate or co-opetition. You can you can you can work out deals with other cryptocurrencies or other businesses that improve your business. Um, but at the end of the day, I'm going to try and make sure that my product is better than your product.
yeah,
And maybe I won't do that by attacking your product, because maybe I think that becomes kind of an issue that they might say on the other side, is that like, oh, you're attacking us, and they were going to 51% reorg and do all this nonsense, because they were saying that Craig was
yeah,
going to do that at one point.
yeah.
But it, to me though, his whole optimistic thing, I just kind of disagreed with that kind of concept. Because it kind of puts it in perspective of this whole like hoorah crypto environment. Like
Yeah.
we're all
On the
part of
same
one
team.
team, even though we're
Yeah.
not part of the same team.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now we might agree on certain things, but like we might agree with free market, or agree on certain political beliefs. We might agree, I don't know, what your favorite color is, but like at the end of the day, though, this is a competition, and I'm gonna try and sell my product better than you.
And
So yeah, and talking just like about a show, like why we can't be friendly towards Bitcoin Cash anymore. Well, it's not that I'm gonna be like mean towards them, but the point of this show is for us to learn more about Bitcoin and help others learn more about Bitcoin. And when we are referring to Bitcoin, we're referring to Bitcoin Satoshi's vision. So why would I be friendly to something that competes with that, and that I think ultimately is a better product than this other one?
yeah. And in a way, you're incentivized to not be friendly to other coins, right?
Right.
Because we want our coin to be the global currency, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we want it to increase in value more than the other coins. So there's actually no incentive to play nice in kumbaya with all the other coins,
Yeah.
no matter what. I think like one of the points that came up that I wish maybe we had talked about this a little better. Like, I don't think I formulated my thoughts on it as well as I probably should have, but what the narrative has become, right? It's become the ability to transact peer to peer instantaneously and have value transfer done and cryptographically secured. That's what everyone is now saying the innovation of Bitcoin is, right? That's like the entire argument, that the ability to transact peer to peer and not have someone stop you from doing it. That's the innovation. That's the economic freedom that Roger is talking about bringing to the world, right?
Yeah.
But it belies the fact that if, look, you know, you use Venmo, right? Or you use Zelly, you use all these other apps. I can still do that today, right? I can transact peer to peer. Can the financial institution stop me from making the transaction? Of course, right? But this is why I wanted to clear up with him the whole permissionless idea, because Bitcoin doesn't actually remove permission. It incentivizes censorship resistance, right? So that's what bothers me, is like his argument is like, well, I want to bring economic freedom. I want this is what cryptocurrency provides, right? Cryptocurrency provides the ability to have peer-to-peer transfer. And it's like, it does, but the other aspect of Bitcoin is the fact that it's built in a way where the economics of the system, in number one, it makes it hard to change, right? As you scale Bitcoin, the more you have competing entities spending millions, maybe billions of dollars to compete against each other, it makes changing Bitcoin very hard. It makes changing that 21 million cap very hard, which is obviously the deflationary thing we all find valuable about Bitcoin, right?
Right.
It's the Red Queen's game, right? It's the idea that miners have to continually compete. They cannot rest on their laurels and then become this oligarchy residing over the money supply. That's the problem that we're fixing, right? You don't want single entities that cannot be replaced and are unaccountable to anybody to have control over the money supply. The whole point is to have competing entities producing the best outcome to produce this currency that has sound economic principles, and that that power isn't given to one single central entity, right?
Right.
And it's like what we talked about, and he agreed with this. Ethereum. It's like Ethereum. Ethereum, I can send, look, easy to send you Ethereum money, right? Or ETH, right? I can do that easy. Economic freedom, baby, right? The ability to send that peer to peer, no problem. But when the underlying system, when what, they just had a meeting to change the block reward or something, like you just have central developers planning the economics of the system. It's ridiculous, right? That's not freedom. So this is my problem, is that you can say you're promoting economic freedom I want. That's not freedom. Freedom, all because I can send Corey ETH, right? And it's cryptographically secured in a blockchain, ooh, right? And it's done instantaneously. But the money supply is at the whim of some 18-year-old kid that didn't go to college. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's ridiculous. There's nothing free about that. There's nothing liberating about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And he did agree and Roger did agree that, you know, he thought people do underestimate the power of miners and how important that is to the system.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was nice to kind of agree on that perspective. Now and I didn't bring it up, but like the thing that I kind of question on the Bitcoin Cash side now is the just like what they're doing with like the pre-consensus stuff, and I just wonder if it raises any concern from him. I wish I would have asked him this, because I would have liked to get his opinion on it, but it would have been nice to kind of go down that route of like, where does this road kind of end? Or where is this road going?
Yeah. And I do want to put out full disclosure about this interview, because I think it's fair. We were asked to give the questions beforehand, and we were told we had 30 minutes, right? So I want to make that actually clear, everybody. And I'm not trashing Roger. I think that's fair. He's a very valuable person. I'm grateful he took the time, but there was a lot of questions I wish that we had done too. Some that's on us. We had time to prepare the questions and ask them, right? But to go on with what you're saying is precisely that I actually do I think what ABC has done, and this is epitomized in the checkpointing thing, whether you can argue the checkpoints didn't matter or anything like that, what they've done is they've already taken the step of centrally planning something, doing it behind the backs of everybody, so not transparently, and they've essentially made consensus changes on their own without transparency. Once you do that one time, you've completely set the precedent that it can be done again, right? It's the same thing with the ETH fork or with Ethereum Classic. Who says that they're never going to? Why would they not roll back the chain if something happens again, like the DAO hack, right?
Right.
Why would ABC not implement something for the greater security of the chain later on, right? So I wish that we had talked about that. I actually wish that we had talked about, if you're talking about sound money, you've already violated the basic principles of what makes Bitcoin sound money.
Right. And I don't want to extrapolate anything that Roger's been saying, because I don't think it's fair to talk about things that without him being here now to kind of speak on. This is just kind of a recap and some of the things that we wish we would have discussed, because obviously people were disappointed in the way that we interviewed, but whatever. But I think he that might have been alarming to him. I think some of the stuff, like, and I think he's actually thought about this stuff. And I'm not gonna say that he has, but I don't know.
Well, it's clear that it's like, and you don't know why I know that he's thought about this? Because when Andreas Brecken, here's the video. Let's just share the video. I mean, this is important for people to understand. And I brought this up, obviously. We changed topics quickly. But let's see. Let me just show everyone my tabs here. So let's. All right. Can you see that, Corey? Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. What a night.
All right, so he lays out the whole checkpoint thing, right? And basically, the reason why I know that the reason why I'm saying well, of course, that's actually not in this video. Wow. Let's see. It's when Andreas Brecken says, "We fucked up." Here we go. Here it is. Oh, there's me.
You need a haircut. Your reaction.
Just like a government.
Your face, bottom left.
Yeah, so that's I mean, and the reason why I'm saying Roger, I think probably shares in that, because Andreas Brecken said that after a whole day of hanging out with Roger, right, on the hash four day. So I guarantee you this came up, right? This isn't come out of nowhere. I have a feeling that Roger might share sympathy, but again, who knows? I'm not going to speak for Roger. He's not here.
Yeah.
But I think Andreas actually summed it up beautifully. I think that just like a government in wartime, you say we're going to do it just this one time. That's the tenet of central planning, right? That it's never just one time. It has consequences far and wide, and it sets precedents, right? So
yeah.
So, Roger interview, right? That was it. That was what we did. I thought it went well, right? Could have been longer.
One of the interesting things I thought from what he said was that he did agree BSV is Bitcoin in many traits. He said that if he was to redo, which I think he probably will redo his little table, uh, like what's more Bitcoin. I think he said that BSV and BCH are gonna have the same traits. I don't know. We'll see what
Yeah.
his determination of that is. But I also thought it was just interesting how he said he didn't want to split.
Yeah.
And I there were many things that happened, well, allegedly that happened, that would say that he did want to split. And he posted that video about,
Well,
he posted that video about being free to split. And
yeah.
if these people want, so I mean,
Well, the other thing too is at the Bangkok meeting, Omri's whole presentation was good luck end chain with your new coin. That was all. So you know, it was kind of clear what the motivations were. I know that was Roger, but the
yeah,
you know, yeah, I think we can probably move on from right. I mean, I think the interview kind of speaks for itself. Everyone can go watch it. There's other stuff in there. I think it was important that we did that. Right. I think like it's good that we're moving on as the SV people. Like I
right,
don't. I'm done. What do we? I've stopped caring about BCH. There's some people on Twitter that you'll see stuff come up on, and like
right,
I wish them luck on all the stuff they're doing, but it's. I think they've set a dangerous precedent. They really set a dangerous precedent, and I don't think you. That's not fixable. That's something that you can't fix. Like that is something that they've now lodged into the history of their chain.
right.
So,
But I mean, all we can do now is compete in the market for Bitcoin SV to succeed.
yeah,
But another thing that I kind of want to like, you said like you let them go in the dust. I agree in that mindset, but I think a lot of people confuse the interview with Roger as us like, why are we even talking to Roger? Why are we still talking about Bitcoin Cash? And I thought Roger actually brought up a really good point in the interview, and he actually credited Ryan Charles for this comment. He's like, if you want this to be global sound money, you have to accept the fact that people that you hate and you completely disagree with are going to be using the same currency that you're going to be using. And I think that kind of lays out why we talk to Roger. I think we need to still keep the discussion going on that end. I think Roger still has value in that in the whole market, and I think he did seem open to Bitcoin Satoshi's vision if it gave him the most economic freedom, which, in my opinion, I think ultimately will in the end. But I think like still having those discussions are still like very insightful. You keep the discussions going. It allows you to kind of expand your horizon and potential customers in this sense, or potential users in this sense. So I think yes, we're leaving them behind technically, but I think ultimately, it would be nice to just keep educating people and still reaching out and still having discussions with those kind of people.
yeah,
Because
and I think
I think there's going to be a lot of core people that question um, this whole Lightning Network and what's going to happen with that in the end. A lot of people are going to find faults with it eventually. Eventually, they will align probably within the more correct path or within the most successful in terms of the experimental phase that we're in. But yeah, that's just kind of my rant on how we
we,
should keep the discussion going and just try to keep educating
we've got
people.
to be prepared for when Roger does come to SV because it will be the only global Bitcoin. So
Right.
Roger's welcome back whenever he wants. So is every single person because that's the whole point is to build money for everybody, right?
Right. And I welcome him to saying the same thing about Bitcoin Cash. Like, oh, we'll welcome you back to Bitcoin Cash when we succeed. That's competition, and that'll happen, and good luck.
Yeah. And so our goal, I guess, in 2019 is to educate. That's that's kind of been our goal from the beginning, but I guess that's our end goal of 2019 is to build a better educational resource. Kind of working on it. Been busy. Got a lot of stuff we're trying to work on here. But as far as one of the things that we've been talking about, and because this is funny, but you just mentioned the whole like everyone should be allowed to use it, right? We can't exclude people for building a global payment system. The very last thing I will say about the interview is it seemed weird that he said that, and then in the same interview, everything he brought up about what he didn't like about SV was centered around Craig, right? And what we might do one day, because I will say this, I think people should tell us if you think this is valuable, if it's not, because I don't like focusing on Craig, but I think the number one, he deserves credit for teaching. I'll speak for myself. I'm sure this is true for you. A ton about Bitcoin that I didn't know before, and then also if people are going to continually tie him to SV, then there needs to be some kind of thing to show how ridiculous the narrative around him is. I can speak from my own experience. I've been having SV meetups here, right? We had we had 4 people last time, up from 3, so we're growing, right?
Nice.
And this is the funny part about all of this, right? Is people the reason why I respect people in BCH, no matter what, anyway. I know how unpopular it is to be a Bitcoin Cash supporter, right? In a group of blockchain people, right? Like I started a Bitcoin Cash meetup. I know how unpopular that position already is. You can only imagine how more unpopular I made myself turning that meetup into an SV meetup, right?
Yeah.
And of course, and the point I'm trying to make is that the first thing that comes up, I'm not even kidding. First thing that came up from the person that was there, he was actually really very intelligent, had a very good conversation, was Craig. He was like, yeah, well, fuck Craig. That guy sucks. So SV sucks. And he's like, I just wanted to come and see who would actually like SV. No respect, or, he's being nice and polite about it. But he was like, I just didn't know people actually enjoyed SV. And he just put everything he talked about was Craig. The entire thing, Craig, right?
That in my meetups when I was having them for Bitcoin Cash before the split, that came up as well. That always came up. What's your opinion on Craig? That'd be like almost the first or second question people would ask me. What's your opinion on Craig? And a lot of people in mine had very strong opinions about him, but almost to the point where I think like they felt like it was necessary that he step away from everything for crypto to succeed.
Yeah.
And obviously I don't align with that position, because a lot of them were a part of the crypto scene in general. So that was another whole thing. So my meetups weren't really Bitcoin related; they were more casino related.
Yeah.
But we talked about Bitcoin a lot.
Well, I think what would be helpful, and I honestly believe this, because what I had hoped, we've talked with Craig a few times now on camera, one time on a cell phone recording.
Yeah.
I would just hope that like if people would listen and then try and learn from him, that you could get away from the whole personality thing. It's very clear people just want to focus on like Craig. So I think what we might do, open up for feedback, is just lay out what we know about Craig, right? The person. And that way you can point people to something. You can point people to something like, this is the facts about this guy. Now, whether he has a personality that you like or not, that's up to you, right? But at least like the facts about like, oh, he's fake Toshi, right? Or he claimed to be Satoshi. That's not true. It's not true. It's not a true statement. He did not claim to be Satoshi. No, not true, right? Anyway, I think that might need to happen, because I really think, unfortunately, when it was BCH, when it was Bitcoin Cash, it was Roger, Jihan, Craig, right? So you got to kind of the hatred was kind of spread out between these three supervillains.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Unfortunately, now the supervillain tag has been thrown at Craig, and I think he doesn't mind it, but I think it's helpful to like just be like, who is this guy? I don't know. We might do it.
And I'll admit, like, sometimes, like, not Craig related, but like sometimes if I hear something beforehand and someone has like a very strong opinion on it and they tell me about it and like, oh, you're gonna check out this, check out this, check out this, and then I start doing more research outside of it, I'll admit sometimes it's easier to get tunnel vision and like figure out, okay, what's this wrong? What's he really meaning here? Or like, what is this article really going for? Like, I'll try and look for something deeper than what's really there. And I think that tends to happen a lot with Craig as well, is that people are looking for a deeper answer or like something that's like flawed with his answer. So when they're looking for it, if you're looking for something, you'll probably find it. You'll find a way to twist it or something.
Oh yeah.
And I do the same thing. I'll admit I do the same thing sometimes. I need to take a step back and like actually have an open mind about things.
I think it's a human trait. It's probably a pretty human trait to go into something and, like I remember, like it, when you get in like political debates, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're talking with someone you don't agree with, you're usually just like waiting until they stop talking to then put in your next point, right? You're not really actually caring what they're saying. You're just like, you know that you disagree with everything they're saying, so you're formulating in your head, how can I make them, how can I like stump them when it's my turn to talk, right? You know what I mean? That's like the way I think everyone operates, right?
Yeah, you're like listening for something wrong that they say, then you find it, and then immediately block out everything that they're saying. You're formulating like mathematical. All right, I'm gonna say this, and just
yeah.
But
so we should get into the whole Bitcoin. I don't even know how long we've been doing this here, but Bitcoin maximalism, right?
Right.
That was kind of what the whole. We kind of touched on this, right? I mean, the whole root of it is like we find the economic principles of Bitcoin to produce sound money, and that is inherently rooted in the capitalist nature of the system. The very, very, very common in the crypto sphere, right? The crypto sphere, which is an interesting sphere of its own. People really like to. It's usually Craig that they shit on the fact that he says socialist all the time, right? And I remember back, like, I used to hear socialists and I would be like, oh, that's such a cop out. That's such a cop out argument, like to call something socialist because you're ignoring all the good, right? And that's when, back when you wanted to be like, no, universal healthcare is good, right? Universal healthcare has benefits because everyone gets. Then when someone calls it socialist, you get all pissed off because you're just like, it's not what no, it's like actually good, right? And all this other stuff, right? But at the root of it, like socialism, it has its own, like, obviously, what's the word, like connotations, I guess, with it, right? That are very negative. But at the heart of it, socialism is the idea that something can be planned by a central authority better than what the market can give, right? That is essentially what it is, right? And if you look at every single, taking that simple definition, every single cryptocurrency today fails that test except for Bitcoin SV. Think about that. Not one cryptocurrency leaves the economics of the system up to an open market. Not one. Bitcoin Cash, as we've talked about, forewent that in this last fork in the name of security. Ethereum does it every fucking week, right? EOS, right? Name me one cryptocurrency that doesn't. Look at Siacoin. Siacoin is a perfect case study for what happens when like, I honestly think it would be, as much as we never want to talk about altcoins, it would be the most valuable, I think, episode to run through the history of the Siacoin developers. They have Nebulous. They create the Obelisk company. They create Obelisk miners. They then they then fork the code. to brick Bitmain miners because evil Bitmain, right? The evil enemy Bitmain. In effect, giving their own miners a monopoly over the network, right? An incredible case study in what happens when you had a developer talking about why proof of work was the best way, best consensus algorithm, all this other stuff, blah blah blah. But when you don't actually believe in Bitcoin, like when you don't actually believe in proof of work, but you just think it'd be nice to have a ton of machines hashing stuff for the security of the network, but they should play by my rules, right? That's the root of it. That the Sidecoin developers, right? They need to play by my rules, and that's what they failed to do. And so at the root of it, every other cryptocurrency fails the definition of capitalism versus socialism because not one other cryptocurrency says the economics of the system should be left to the miners or the individual actors competing. Not one.
Yeah.
So if the question is why are you a Bitcoin maximalist, that is the very simple response. Very, very simple response. Mm-hmm. Right? As I'm sure most people do, if you adhere to the tenets of free market capitalism, and you believe free market capitalism produces the best outcomes, you have to be a Bitcoin maximalist. And when I say Bitcoin, I mean the only Bitcoin that actually is governed by free market capitalism. Otherwise, you're arguing for something that is inherently not capitalist, that is inherently socialist, whether you like the word or not, and it will produce a worse outcome.
Right.
So when people say like, oh, what if you're picking the wrong coin? It's like I'm not. Like I know that I'm not. You know what I mean? And I understand that that's a very easy ammunition for someone in the future if this doesn't work out. I wholeheartedly believe this will work or none of them will work. Wholeheartedly. The blockchain's not new. Cryptocurrency isn't new. Cryptography isn't new. None of this stuff is new. The only thing new was the implementation of capitalism to make this system work. That's it.
And it ultimately lies with the economic model that Bitcoin SV has. And we talked about it a little bit last week before the show with Roger, but remember we were talking about Treecoin?
Right. Yes.
How, we didn't really care. This was like one of our first couple episodes, I think.
Yeah.
I won't put people through the pain of going back and listening to it unless they want to. But we actually said that, if there ever was like another split or something, or if 5 years down the road, there was something called Treecoin and everything else betrayed the economic model that Bitcoin had, but Treecoin did, we'd support Treecoin all the way.
Yeah.
And I guess that kind of agrees with what we're saying. And just another thing to kind of add to your system of like all these different cryptocurrencies, the idea of having all these different cryptocurrencies. Well, my question to someone would be is, do you enjoy bear markets? Because like really, I think if 5 years from now, if there's like 2,000 different cryptocurrencies and this thing actually like succeeds, what's stopping more companies from building their own coin? And when more companies build their own coin, all that does is turn it into a like pump and dump of everything, pretty much. Like the wealth will be more sporadic throughout the whole system. And because of that, everything's going to be just going up and down, up and down, up and down. And like, how do you value something within the first week of an existence? Like, what's stopping us then in this whole cryptocurrency market of like everyone's using their different cryptocurrencies? What's stopping us from launching a scam coin, launching it in a week, swapping all of our coins out for actual value because a bunch of people bought in? And what's stopping that system from just refreshing, recycle, refresh, recycle, refresh? Because someone actually investing right now in cryptocurrencies, they have to have some knowledge of reading like these white papers and everything. They have to have some knowledge. And do you expect someone to actually sit down and read these? Oh, like it's 9 o'clock at night. I got to sit down and read the white paper so I know what to invest in and make sure that my coin isn't a scam that I bought last week. That system requires a lot of people to start, doing all this research into investments, and it takes away from saving. What Bitcoin was really supposed to be is like, why can't I just save my money now? I can't do that in an inflationary market.
Yeah, and it, like what you're saying is like, I mean, really inherently, if you're going to have 800 cryptocurrencies,
Yeah,
then you need exchanges. You need these things that everyone rails against, that
yeah,
everyone supposedly is here to fight against. The idea of a central authority, giving, fractional reserve, done by a central authority where there's no accountability, which is exactly what you saw with Bitfinex, right?
yeah.
You need those things to go between the cryptocurrencies, or you
Right.
need atomic swaps, which as of right now requires the Lightning Network, which requires central hubs.
Right. But even in atomic swaps, though, how do you know what to swap for? There has to be some kind of like
Yeah,
value knowledge to transfer it.
it ignores the tenet that people tend to value one thing. Like people don't want to take 8,000 different things for goods, right? You don't want to
Right.
barter like it betrays that idea, like as if people are going to not adhere to that, which is
Yeah.
probably not.
I guess like I just thought about this too. It kind of actually is a direct comparison of people thinking that stocks would be used as currency.
Yeah,
And if you look at like traditional market, people that are investing in stocks are qualified to trade. They have the knowledge to trade,
right.
and they handle these mutual funds and index funds. They handle all that stuff. And me, as a normal outside person, or my parents, or like any one of our friends and family, they just donate their money. Well, not donate. Well, in a way, donate to 401ks and mutual funds and Roths, because they don't want to do all the research themselves. They don't want to have that stress of investments. They just want to put it in a fund that will grow their wealth so that they can retire later on. And thinking that someone would actually go in, pick their stocks and everything, and that the average Joe is going to go in there, pick their stocks, and then use their stocks to start buying their diapers at Walgreens or something.
Right. Right.
Just that mindset, that just won't work, and it hasn't worked.
Yeah, it's a good analogy. Yeah, it's a really good analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of
Yeah.
like that, and like that just hit me. Like,
Yeah,
if
but these
someone
stocks
thinks
have utility,
stocks,
man. These stocks have
yeah,
utility, man. Yeah. Uh yeah, I don't know. I don't know, like the thing that we talked about this when we got back from London. For the first time, the SV people, whoever you want, I'm never gonna say the word community, or I don't view us as this community, right? But the people that are into SV, it seems like, all share a common vision of let's keep this thing locked down, the economics of it locked down,
mm-hmm.
scale it to the globe, and let's make it the best, most useful money on the planet, right? As long as we do that, we're fine. Like as long as we do that, there is success to be had there. If you focus on these like trying to build other technologies, people don't care about that stuff. Like people really don't care about how cool your stock is. They don't care about like they want it, like
All they want to do is make money.
they want something that holds value, that is easy to transfer. That's all they want,
Yeah,
right? Exactly,
yeah,
exactly. And I think the last thing, I think the last thing we should say about like maximalism, right, is that like there's a lot of what we pulled up the tweets last time, right? Like Charlie Lee, was it that? Well, yeah, we gotta pull. So we started to record an episode before because we didn't think we were going to be able to talk with Roger,
yeah.
and some stuff happened. So we started talking about this stuff, but what we found really funny was Charlie Lee it was around that time last week where like everyone was talking about Bitcoin maximalism. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And here we go. Here, here's Charlie. I'm sure
Yeah, it was a hot topic a couple weeks ago.
Let's see. Share screen. So Charlie, some self. Hang on. He said a few things about maximalism. Maybe that was it. I don't think so. But he said some self-proclaimed Bitcoin maximalists are actually Bitcoin extremists. They think all other coins are scams and will go to zero. He redefines what a maximalist is. Maximalists think Bitcoin is and will remain the dominant cryptocurrency, but there is room for altcoins to exist and even do well. What are you? So he in one tweet redefined what a Bitcoin maximalist is, right?
Yeah.
Which is ridiculously stupid. They think all other coins are scams and will go to zero. That's a Bitcoin extremist, right? Because there's no way that Litecoin is a scam that Charlie Lee sold at the top and exited from, right? There's no way. There's absolutely no way that it's a scam. It has to be that everyone else are extremists, right? We're terrorists. We're Bitcoin terrorists, right? He said something else.
To kind of like counter argument the whole scam thing. Like, I think scam would infer that the person creating it is trying to scam you. But, and in my opinion, they're not really scams, but they're just things with no utility whatsoever.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So like, I guess people like take this whole like, oh, scams. I guess they're not really scams. They just don't hold any utility. I personally don't think they hold any utility value whatsoever.
They hold
and if
this.
the person that created it knew that it had no utility, because I think they actually do think that they hold utility, but I think that's just their false.
I think it's a speculation on future utility, right? Is
Right.
The root of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Damn, I could have sworn he had another tweet. He might have deleted it, knowing him, honestly.
But I mean, to generalize my opinions, though, as a Bitcoin maximalist, to say that I think everything else is a scam is like, that's a generalized opinion about Bitcoin. Like, I don't necessarily agree with that concept, you know?
Yeah.
But I do think they will go to zero. This isn't financial advice or anything, but I do think they will. I don't know about all, but
yeah,
because this theory's been kind of boggling my head a little bit. The ideas of stocks being traded at value of Bitcoin, and I mean Bitcoin SV. It's like, I don't think everything's like a scam, and I think maybe other businesses will change their protocols to kind of reflect more of a token solution. Like, this is our company, this is what we're doing, and this is the stocks that you can invest in our company at. But another thing I was just thinking about was like, how is it going to be traded back to Bitcoin value? That'll be interesting.
I mean tokens or
Yeah.
Well, allegedly we can do swaps, right? So we can do atomic swaps with the tokens, allegedly, and probably a lot of ways, right? Hopefully without exchanges, though. I don't think you need exchanges. Like, now you might need exchanges to go from fiat because you may find a Bitcoin token more valuable than Bitcoin itself, right?
Right.
And that's the thing. Everyone is free to experiment with their tokens on top of Bitcoin. That's why I'm a Bitcoin maximalist, because Bitcoin can handle the volume to allow Vitalik to experiment with Ethereum on top of it. It can handle all these other cryptocurrencies trying their own proof of work functions inside of Bitcoin, which is possible, right? So, but the problem is that this is the root issue. I want money. I want sound money. So I don't want money governed by Ethereum. I don't want money governed by Henri Sachet, right? I want sound money that is governed by the Bitcoin white paper. And yes, we're going to bring up the Bitcoin white paper. Like, read it. Go read the thing. Understand why it's important. Understand why it's valuable. Understand why it incentivizes a better outcome, right?
We should plug our series, white paper
White paper series. We have a playlist on our YouTube channel. You can look it up. We'll put a link. I say we'll put a link all the time. I never put the links in.
Good luck.
We'll try to put a link. White paper series. We cover it. Like we cover this thing, and it's not that hard. It's not that difficult. Like, take the time to read it. If you're in this space, take the time to read the thing. I would hope before you have money in this space, right? And you know, so we want it governed by the white paper. We want this to be tried, and that's what we told Roger. I want to try the Bitcoin white paper. I want to see if it works. Like, let us try it.
How would you reply to someone that says, we've tried it and now we've come to this now?
Well, it's not true. It's not true, right? I mean, it's
because I would agree that we haven't tried it yet because it's not being used correctly.
We have essentially been told that a lot of what Bitcoin was supposed to be doesn't work without actually experimenting. It was just done like, well, that can't work, right? This can't work because of this, and that's not going to work either. So let's disable that. And by the way, the white paper was wrong because you can't actually do SPV. It doesn't actually work, right? And over and over and over again. So it's, in my opinion, objectively false. Like, we haven't tried it. The argument that's made is like, even November 15th, we did not try Nakamoto consensus. Unfortunately, by stifling the possibility of reorg on the ABC chain, we didn't even have a hash war. We had a very pathetic attempt at one. But
yeah,
in the future, we will see many hash wars. We will see many hash wars, and I look forward to that day. So, in our job now, anyone listening, watching, whatever, is to make Bitcoin SV as valuable as possible. And when Bitcoin SV is as valuable as possible, you bring other if you hate the idea of miner centralization, if you hate the fact that there's 3 miners or 4 miners or 5 miners, and you want more miners, make Bitcoin SV more valuable. Make it profitable to mine the chain. Bring value into the ecosystem. Build something. Do something. Right. That's how you all these problems. It's kind of like that quote, right, that Ryan was making. All these problems with Bitcoin can be solved with Bitcoin. If you actually think centralization, right, is a problem, make it more valuable. Bring more miners into the ecosystem because it's profitable for them to do so, right? So we have a very clear path ahead of us, actually, and there's a lot of exciting things, I think, that are going to come down the pipeline here. So
you mentioned one thing, like Nakamoto consensus wasn't played out back in November, and would you agree, though, that in a way, by the Bitcoin SV chain continuing on right now, that Nakamoto consensus is still being battled with not just Bitcoin Cash, but I think with every system that requires some type of hash power?
It's not over until one chain is dead, until the other competing chains are dead.
Right.
Absolutely. And if the Bitcoin Cash miners were smart, they would have killed SV by now. Because otherwise, what's going to happen, and this is going to happen, is SV is going to overtake Bitcoin Cash in market cap. It's going to overtake Bitcoin Cash in total proof of work. And it's going to crush Bitcoin Cash. And Bitcoin Cash will no longer exist. And if the miners had taken the opportunity that was given to them when Andreas Brecken and all of his buddies brought on the hash rate, they should have killed SV. They should have reorged the thing to death. They should have double spent exchanges anytime it came online. They should have done everything to make it not actually work. They should have killed it. But they didn't. And it's going to come back and bite them in the ass. And that is their failure to use Nakamoto consensus, I believe. Yes.
Hot takes.
I think we're over an hour here, or maybe coming up on it. I cannot
All
see
right.
how long we've been doing this actually, and I thought I could, but so I guess we can leave it there. Um,
Yeah.
exciting times. Bitcoin SV is Bitcoin.
Yeah.
uh,
We need to
news
start
alert.
mapping out how we're gonna do our educational pieces. I think it's gonna require like taking like a step back.
Uh, I think the yeah, I don't want to. Ideally, if if I was a good front end developer, this would be much easier. But uh, uh, I've been working at doing that actually because I think it'd be easy to spin. It'd be nice to be able to spin this kind of concept, but I actually think it'd be very cool to make this like a Khan Academy type thing. There's a
Hmm.
lot of work to do to get there, but if you can imagine, it's like course like the problem is no one's going to actually do the people that want to do this will do it, right? But imagine
Yeah.
just powering a course with like money button, for example, right? Um, and build something out that says, okay, you want to learn about mining, you can take it back to the simples, right? You want to learn how mining works, here's the course, right? um,
Yeah.
Charge you $1, who knows, right? Charge you more, I don't know, right? Stuff like that. And but there's a lot of moving parts to work through, and yeah, we got ideas, but busy people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yep. All
All right,
right.
cool,
Well, good show.
good stuff.
We'll,
Everyone enjoy.
we'll
I'm
see
gonna
everyone next week.
cut it out here.